My name is Claire, and this is the story of how someone I trusted the most used me like a bank, treated me like a fool, and thought they could get away with it. But what they never expected was that I would take back control, cut them off, and watch their fake little empire crumble right in front of them. If you have ever been betrayed by a friend or had someone take advantage of your kindness, then you already know how much this hurts. And if you have ever wondered whether karma really catches up with people like that, trust me, it does. Before I dive into it, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, because here we tell the stories others are too scared to say out loud. The stories where betrayal does not just end in heartbreak, but in justice. So let me start from the beginning. I met Sophie 3 years ago. She was not just my friend, she was the kind of person you meet once and feel like you have known forever. She had this bubbly laugh, a way of making every room lighter, and a charm that could melt even the coldest hearts. At least that is how she appeared on the surface. We bonded fast. Coffee dates, long walks, gossip sessions that stretched into the night. We shared secrets, dreams, even silly fears. And when someone becomes that close, you never stop to question their intentions. You just trust. At the time, I had just come out of a rough phase. Work had finally started paying off, and I was earning well. I was not rich, but comfortable enough to help out a friend here. And there, Sophie, on the other hand, always seemed to be struggling. First, it was a late electricity bill, then rent, then just a little for groceries. And me, I gave gladly, because it's not that what friends are for. I can still remember the first time she asked. We were sitting in this little bakery, downtown, her favorite spot. She played with her coffee, cup eyes darting nervously, and then whispered, "Claire, I hate to even ask this, but I am in a tight spot this month. Could you maybe help me out with rent just until payday?" I did not even think twice. I pulled out my phone, sent her the money right there, and she grabbed my hand with tears in her eyes, promising she would pay me back as soon as possible. But of course, payday never came. And then came the next request and the next, each time wrapped in excuses, stories, and a voice so shaky with desperation that I could not bring myself to say no. People around me started to notice. My sister told me, "Claire, she is using, you see, this is not in friendship, it is freeloading." But I defended Sophie every time. I said, "You do not understand, she has been through so much. She is just having a bad stretch. I would want someone to help me if I was in her shoes." Because when you care about someone you do not want to believe, they are capable of manipulation. Months passed, my savings thinned, my credit card bills grew heavier, and yet Sophie's problems never seemed to end. Somehow there was always a new crisis. A broken laptop she needed for work, a medical bill, a car repair. And the thing is, she always had an excuse that sounded just believable enough. She was good, too good. But the cracks began to show. One night we were at a small get-together. Sophie had borrowed money from me earlier that week, saying she did not even have enough for groceries. But at this party, I watched her pull out a brand new designer handbag, showing it off like it was a trophy. People gasped, complimented her, asked where she got it. And she laughed, tossing her hair back, saying, "Oh, I just treat myself sometimes. You know, a girl has got to have nice things." And there I was, standing in the corner, realizing that the money she borrowed for groceries had been hanging off her arm all night in the form of that bag. My stomach sank, my heart raced. But still, I told myself maybe it was a gift. Maybe she got it on sale. Maybe she really did need it for some reason. Because denial is easier than admitting you have been played. The real truth slapped me in the face a few weeks later. I had stopped by Sophie's apartment one afternoon unannounced. She opened the door, looking flustered, as if she had not expected me behind her. I caught a glimpse of boxes, expensive shoes, makeup kits stacked high, bottles of champagne lined up on the counter. And then I heard it. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and before she could snatch it away, I saw the screen light up, a text from someone saved as bestie. It read, "Thanks for the cash, babe, drinks on you tonight." That is when the puzzle pieces snapped into place. She was not just borrowing money, she was collecting it. From me, from others, from anyone foolish enough to believe her stories, and she was spending it like water clothes parties, endless luxuries, while the people funding her were scraping to keep up. I felt sick, betrayed, used. I left without saying much, but that night, I lay awake replaying every moment of our friendship, every fake tear, every "I promise I will pay you back," every hug that now felt like a con. And I realized Sophie had never seen me as a friend, I was a wallet with legs. The anger that bubbled inside me was not just about the money, it was about trust. The betrayal of knowing that someone I let so close had been using me like a pawn in her game. I knew I had two choices: keep quiet and let it continue, or cut her off completely. But cutting her off would not be enough. Not for someone like Sophie, because if she could do this to me, she could do it to anyone, and I could not stand the thought of watching her walk around with that smug little smile bragging about her lifestyle, while the truth stayed hidden. So I decided if she wanted to play games, I would show her I was no fool. But I was not going to scream or beg or confront her with tears. No, I was going to let her expose herself. Because the worst thing for someone who thrives on lies is the moment when the mask finally cracks. And believe me, Sophie's mask was about to shatter. The night after I discovered Sophie's little stash of luxury goods, I could not sleep. My mind kept racing in circles. Every laugh we had shared, every promise she had made now looked like theater. A performance. And I was the audience who had paid the ticket price. The betrayal cut deep. But I did not want to just throw accusations at her because Sophie was too good at twisting stories. She would cry, she would guilt trip, she would flip it all back on me, and somehow I would end up feeling like the villain. No, if Sophie was going to be exposed, it had to be done in a way that no amount of fake tears could erase. And so the plan began. I started small. I stopped lending her money. Not all at once, because if I cut her off too, suddenly she would know something was up. Instead, I made excuses. When she asked for a loan, I would sigh and say, "Oh, I just had some bills come up." Or, "My card is maxed right now, maybe next week." At first, she brushed it off, acting like it was no big deal. But soon the requests became more urgent. "Claire, please, I really need this. I will pay you back." The texts piled in, sometimes late at night, sometimes in the morning like clockwork. I ignored some, replied late to others. And that is when Sophie started showing her true colors. Her sweet tone faded. She became sharp, impatient, even demanding. One night she snapped on the phone saying, "I do not get why you are being so stingy. I will pay you back. Friends are supposed to help each other." And that was the moment I knew Sophie did not see me as a friend. I was her safety net, her piggy bank. I wanted to scream, but instead I played along quietly, patiently, because while she was getting desperate for cash, I was gathering evidence. I went back to that text I had seen on her phone, the one from Bestie. With a little digging, I realized it was another friend of hers, a girl named Natalie. I had never been close to Natalie, but I knew enough, and after some discreet conversations, the truth spilled out. Natalie admitted that Sophie had been borrowing from her too. Same promises, same sob stories, same excuses, and it did not stop there. I found out she had been borrowing from 3, 4, 5 other people, all with different tales: a sick relative, a car repair overdue bills. She tailored her lies like a seamstress, fitting each story perfectly to whoever she was talking to. And everyone thought they were the only one, until me. I decided it was time to let Sophie's little empire of lies crash down. The first step: information. I sat with each person privately: Natalie, then a guy named Josh, then even one of Sophie's co-workers. I showed them messages Sophie had sent me, then asked them to pull up theirs. The patterns were identical, the same phrases, the same excuses, even the same crying emojis. We compared notes. We counted together. We realized Sophie had borrowed thousands she never planned to return. By the end of that week, we had a group chat going. Everyone she had scammed was in it. And let me tell you, the rage in that chat could have lit a fire. Natalie wrote, "I knew it. I told myself something was off. She always had her nails done, always knew. Clothes, and I was here stressing over bills because I gave her my rent money." Josh added, "She told me her mom was sick. My mom actually sent her prayers, and all the while she was at bars spending my cash." The group grew louder. Screenshots flew back and forth. It was undeniable now Sophie had been running a friendship scam, and yet she had no idea the walls were closing in. She kept messaging me, begging for just a little help. I played dumb, replying with things like, "I will see what I can do, but it has been tight lately." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the plan to expose her was taking shape. We agreed not to confront her one-on-one, because Sophie could handle that. She could twist it, lie, charm her way out. No, if Sophie was going to fall, it had to be in front of everyone. No escape routes, no excuses. And then came the perfect opportunity: Sophia's birthday. She had planned a big dinner, nothing fancy, just at a local restaurant. She invited all of us, of course. After all, we were her closest friends. Little did she know we were walking in with a plan. The night of the dinner. I dressed calmly, but my heart pounded like a drum. I kept telling myself, "Stay composed, Claire. Do not let her see it coming." We all gathered around the table. Sophie was glowing, drinking wine, laughing like the star of the show. She wore a glittery dress, another new purchase, no doubt funded by us. The waiter brought out the cake. We clapped, sang, smiled, and then it was my turn. I stood up, glass in hand, pretending to make a toast. "Happy birthday, Sophie." I began, my voice steady. "You have been such a big part of all our lives. You always know how to make us laugh, how to make us feel important. And tonight, I think it is only fair that we celebrate not just you, but everything you have given us." She beamed, soaking up the attention. And that is when I nodded. One by one, the others pulled out their phones. Screens lit up, messages appeared on the table. Her lies, her excuses, her fake promises all spread out like an open book. Natalie read hers aloud. "Sophie, you said your landlord was going to evict you if I did not pay your rent, but funny Josh has the same text, and Claire too, and Emma Josh chimed in, and you told me your mom was in the hospital, but apparently she has been in the hospital for 3 years now, huh?" The table fell silent. All eyes turned to Sophie. Her smile cracked. Her face paled. She stuttered, trying to laugh it off. "Guys, this is a misunderstanding. You do not get it. I can explain." But there was no explaining left to do, because when everyone, as phones light up with the same lies, no explanation can cover the truth. The whispers started. Other diners turned their heads. Sophie's voice trembled, begging, "Please, you do not understand. I really needed the help," but the sympathy was gone. Replaced with cold, hard anger, Natalie slammed her phone on the table and said, "No, Sophie, you did not need help. You needed an audience for your show, and we paid the ticket price." And that is when Sophie broke. She started crying, mascara running, pleading with each of us, grabbing hands, saying, "You are my friends. Please do not do this. I will pay you back. I promise. Just give me time." But it was too late. We stood up one by one, leaving her at that table, sobbing, surrounded by the wreckage of her lies. The very people she had used now walking out of her life forever. And as I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt something I had not felt in months, relief. Because Sophie was not my responsibility anymore. Her mask was gone, the truth was out, and the world could finally see her for who she really was. But little did I know Sophie was not done yet. Because people like her, they do not just disappear quietly. And soon she would try to claw her way back into my life in the most desperate way imaginable. The days after Sophie's birthday were strangely quiet. My phone, once buzzing with her constant messages, sat still. No calls, no texts, no urgent emergencies that only my wallet could fix. For the first time in years, I could breathe. But peace never lasts long when someone like Sophie is involved. At first, I thought maybe she had finally understood, that maybe she was reflecting on what she had done, feeling the weight of her actions. But no, Sophie was not the type to reflect. She was the type to rebuild her lies brick by brick until she found another way in. It started with whispers. A mutual acquaintance pulled me aside one day, saying, "Claire, did you know Sophie's been telling people you betrayed her? That you exposed her because you are jealous?" Jealous, the word burned. After everything she had taken from me now, she was painting herself as the victim. Apparently she was telling anyone who would listen that I had set her up, that I had been bitter and insecure, and I could not stand seeing her happy, so I orchestrated this whole drama. At first I laughed it off, but then I started noticing changes. A few old friends stopped returning my calls. A neighbor who used to wave every morning suddenly avoided eye contact. The damage was spreading. Sophie had not just lost her old circle, she was trying to build a new one. And she wanted to destroy my reputation in the process. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout the truth louder than her lies. But then I realized something: I did not have to scream. Because I had something Sophie did not prove. One night I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and gathered everything: the group chat, screenshots, the bank transfers, even voice notes she had left when begging for money. I did not want to use them, but the lies were piling up again, and I was not about to let her rewrite the story. I shared the evidence with the people who had started to drift away. Calmly, quietly, no drama, no anger, just the truth. And slowly the tide began to turn. The whispers shifted. People saw the messages, they read her words. They realized Sophie was not just unlucky or misunderstood. She was deliberate, calculated. The sympathy she had tried to gather crumbled. But Sophie, she was not done yet. She showed up at my door one evening. I will never forget the look on her face, a mix of desperation and rage. Her makeup was smeared, her hair a mess, but her eyes still had that same calculating glint. "Claire," she said, voice trembling but sharp, "we need to talk." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to slam the door, but another part of me, the part that still remembered all the years we had been close, could not. So I let her in. She did not waste time. She dropped onto my couch, put her face in her hands, and started crying. "I messed up, okay? I admit it, I should not have borrowed so much. I should not have lied, but you have to understand. I was scared, I needed help, and you were supposed to be my best friend." Her words hit me like knives, not because they were true, but because they were twisted. She was not apologizing, she was blaming me again, shifting the weight back onto my shoulders. I sat across from her, silent, letting her ramble. She went on. "I lost everything, Claire. People will not talk to me. Everyone hates me, you ruined me. But we can fix this. If you just say it was a misunderstanding, if you just help me one more time. I know I can start over." There it was, the hook, the bait. One last attempt to pull me back into her web. I stared at her, really stared. For the first time, I did not see my old friend. Sophie, I saw a stranger who had worn my trust like a costume and discarded it when it no longer served her. And for the first time, I spoke the words I had been holding inside for so long. "No, Sophie, I am not your bank. I am not your excuse. I am not your shield, I was your friend. But you chose to destroy that, and I am done." Her face hardened. The tears dried instantly. She stood up, voice sharp as glass. "Fine. You will regret this. Do not think people will forget what you did to me." And with that, she stormed out. That was the last time I ever saw Sophie in person. In the weeks that followed, the dust finally settled. Her stories lost their power because no one could ignore the evidence. Any more people drifted back into my life, apologizing, admitting they had believed her at first, but now understood. As for Sophie, she faded. She became a ghost in our community. No more glittering appearances, no more endless shopping bags or flashy posts online. Just silence. And me, I found something I had not expected. Peace. It was not just about exposing her. It was not just about revenge. It was about reclaiming myself, my time, my energy, my worth. Because for too long, I had let someone else write the story of my life. But now I was holding the pen. And if there is one thing I learned, it is this. Not everyone who calls you friend is really on your side. Some people see friendship as a transaction, not a bond. They will take and take until you have nothing left. But you are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not destroying someone else's life. It is refusing to let them destroy yours. So if you are listening to this and you have ever felt used, betrayed, or drained by someone who claimed to care about you, remember my story. You do not owe anyone your silence. You do not owe anyone your peace. And the strongest thing you can do is to take it back.